I turned 97 last September. And you know what nobody warned you about when you get that old. It's not the aching joints. It's not the slow way your memory starts skipping, like a record with a scratch in it. It's not even the funerals. And Lord, at 97, you've been to more funerals than birthday parties. No. The thing nobody warns you about is this. It's the years you spent folding yourself down so someone else could feel tall enough, bending and shrinking and going quiet in rooms where you used to have a voice, smiling at things that weren't funny because you didn't want the day to turn bad. I called it love. My name is Eleanor, not Eleanor Roosevelt, not that one, honey. I was here first. Born 1927, in a small town outside Macon, Georgia, where the August heat came up through the floorboards, and the air smelled like pine sap and red dirt, and something that never quite had a name. I'm going to tell you something today that took me until I was 63 to actually understand. Not just learn, understand. Because you can learn a thing and recite it back and nod at it in church on Sunday and still be a complete fool about it every single morning before breakfast. I called it devotion. I called it exactly that. Sometimes the person you gave the most to is the very same person you need to walk away from. And walking away isn't giving up on them. It's finally being honest about what's been happening all along. I had a daughter. Her name was Ruth. And when Ruth was small, she was the best thing that ever happened to me. She used to bring me wildflowers from the yard clutched in her little fist, all crushed and warm, like she'd been holding them the whole walk home just to see my face when she gave them over. She was the kind of child who could make you feel like you'd done everything right just by being her mother. And then, that same afternoon, 20 years later, she became the kind of woman who could make you feel like everything you'd ever done was wrong, just by walking into the room. I kept Ruth in my life for 37 years after it started going bad. 37 years. In that time, I made myself smaller in ways I didn't have words for until much later. I stopped offering my opinion at family dinners because she'd sigh and look at the ceiling like I'd said something embarrassing. I stopped calling her on Sundays because those conversations left me shaking, and I'd stand at the kitchen sink for an hour afterward, just trying to remember who I was before I picked up the phone. I stopped sharing good news with her because she had a way of finding the shadow in everything I said. And after a while, it was easier to just say nothing at all. Something in me just adjusted every time she walked in, like a plant bending away from light instead of toward it. I told myself that's a mother's love. That's what you do. But here's what I know now, after 97 years on this earth. That wasn't love. That was guilt wearing love's clothes, and guilt is a terrible tailor. Nothing it makes ever fits right. You wear it your whole life and wonder why you can never quite breathe. Damage like that doesn't knock first. It doesn't announce itself at the door. It creeps. It normalizes. One day your daughter says something cutting and you let it go because you don't want the whole day to turn ugly. Next time she says something worse and you let that go too. 6 months later, you've stopped expecting her to be kind to you altogether, and the frightening part is, you can't even remember when that shift happened. You just accepted it so slowly that it started to feel like the weather. Like something that was always there and couldn't be changed. People push. Good people. People who were once sweet children who brought you wildflowers in their little fists. They push because they learn, slow and quiet, and without ever meaning to, that you will not push back. Not from cruelty, from habit, from the comfortable understanding that this particular door, if they lean on it hard enough, will always open. They're not monsters, they're just people who got used to being let through. And once someone knows that door will open, your position in that relationship is done. Not the love, not the history you share, your position in it, clears throat. I made a mistake when Ruth was 13. A real one. I was working 2 jobs and I missed something important. Something she needed me there for, and I wasn't. The guilt of it sat in my chest, like something heavy and cold that I carried everywhere and couldn't put down. It sat there for 30 years. Heavy the way grief is heavy. The kind of weight that doesn't hurt anymore because you just got used to it. So I gave her everything after that. My time. I rearranged whole seasons of my life around what she needed. My money. I said yes long after I'd run out of yes to give. My silence. Every time she was unkind, I swallowed it down because I told myself I had earned that. I owed her that. She was still hurting from something I did. I thought I was making it right. I was. I was disappearing. Piece by piece, year by year, in such small amounts that nobody noticed. Here is the cruelest part about disappearing that slowly. Nobody notices until you're completely gone. Sometimes, not even then. You just become the quiet one. The one who's always there and never needs anything. Until one day you look up and realize you've been living like a guest in your own life for 30 years. An apology is enough. A real one. You owning the wrong, changing the behavior, that is the full payment. Anyone still sending you a bill after that isn't collecting what you owe them. They're collecting your self-worth piece by piece and calling it fairness. Don't let them cash that. Now I want you to think about the person in your life you are most afraid to lose. There's a face in your head right now. Don't pretend there isn't. Maybe it's your own child, same as mine. Maybe it's someone else entirely. The one whose love you've been working to earn so long you can't remember what it felt like to just have it. The one who has been in your life so long that the thought of removing them feels like surgery with nothing to dull the pain first. The one who is wonderful in that one specific way, that one thing they do, that makes you forgive everything else, every time, like clockwork, without fail. You've been letting that one take more than they should. Small things, sure, but they stack. Nobody notices one piece of unopened mail sitting on the kitchen counter. 50 pieces of unopened mail later, and the whole counter is buried under something that started small and got away from you while you weren't paying attention. What you keep accepting is what they keep doing. It is not complicated. It is only uncomfortable to say out loud to yourself in a quiet room with nowhere to hide. I finally said something to Ruth. The thing I'd been swallowing for 37 years. My hands were cold when I sat down across from her. My chest was going tight the way it does before a thing you can't take back. But I said it calm. I said it clear. No big speech, no words I'd rehearsed. Just, I love you, but I am not going to keep accepting the way you speak to me. That was all. She left angry, and she didn't call for months. Those first 3 days, I sat in my kitchen feeling like I had broken something that couldn't be fixed. I kept going back over every word. Did I say it wrong? Was I too harsh? Should I have waited, found a softer way, chosen a better moment? Then the fourth morning came. I woke before the light, made myself a cup of Tetley tea, 2 sugars, no milk, and sat on the back steps while the yard was still gray and the birds were just starting up, and the air had that early morning cool that only lasts about 10 minutes before it's gone. And something settled in me. Not in my head, in my chest. I hadn't felt that still, that quiet, that much like myself in 37 years. 37 years. That's not a mother-daughter relationship. That's a weight you forgot you were carrying because you'd had it on so long. Here is the truth that took me nearly a century to stop fighting. Nobody is permanent, not even the ones you made. The people you love most are in your life for a season. Some of those seasons stretch out for so long, they feel like they'll never end. And some end before you're anywhere near ready. But they all change shape, every single one. And when you try to hold a season in place by shrinking yourself down to fit what it needs from you, you're not saving it. You're just postponing a loss that was always coming and paying for the delay with pieces of yourself you'll never get back. Fighting the end of a season by reducing yourself isn't loyalty. It's a slow loss you could have taken faster and still walked away whole. You will survive losing people. You have already survived things that were certain to finish you, things that had no warning, things that came in the middle of ordinary days. You are still here. Every single one of those things, and you are still here. So I want you to know this, not just in your head, but deep in your chest, in the place where you actually feel things and can't talk yourself out of them. You are allowed to cut someone off, even your own child, even after 37 years. The version of you that stops shrinking, stops apologizing for taking up space, stops going quiet in rooms where you used to have a voice. That version doesn't need to earn anyone's love, it just is. And the people who see it and stay, those are your people. Not the ones you've been performing for, not the ones you've been paying with your silence, the ones who choose you when you're not trying, when you're just standing there being exactly who you are. I'm 97 years old. I've buried parents, buried friends, buried the version of myself who believed that being a good mother meant never having needs of her own. And the only regret that still sits heavy in me, the only one that followed me all the way into this age, is how long I waited. How many quiet Sunday mornings I poured my tea and told myself, maybe this week will be different. Maybe this week I'll finally say something. I wasted so many mornings on that, maybe. Some doors, honey. You have to close yourself, not with anger, not with bitterness, just quietly and kindly, and years before you think you're ready. I only wish I had done it sooner. That at 63 I had finally found the courage to cut off my own daughter. I wish I had.